So this is the final one of today. It's I've got the content marketing, yes, where do I go from here? So the irony is that we all think that the hard part can be going to our boss and getting the yes, and it's nerve-wracking. You know, you really want to make sure you're saying the right thing. You need to make sure that all the numbers are in place. But then when you get the yes, I think that's where the really challenging part starts, because now all eyes are on you and you really have to deliver for your boss. So I'm going to tell you a story, and you're probably going to think it has nothing to do with content marketing, but I promise it's going to connect, so just bear with me. So I got married a year and a half ago, and probably because I'm a writer, I always knew I was going to write my own wedding ceremony. And I'm not just talking about my own vows, and I give everyone credit who writes their own vows, but I literally wanted to write from top to bottom every single word. I wanted to write every tradition we were going to use, every quote, hand deliver it to an officiant, hope that they would read all these brilliant words that I put together. And then yes, I was still going to take credit for it in the program booklet, which I did. But that's what I wanted to do. And people look at you like you're crazy, because when you're planning a wedding, they're like, okay, well, you have to pick the venue, you have to do the food, you have to do the flowers, and now you're writing your wedding ceremony. I'm like, yep, I'm going to do it, and you're going to be so impressed. So I had 3 very specific goals that I wanted to achieve when writing my wedding ceremony. The first was, I wanted to make sure that there was a very specific emotion that you got from being part of our wedding ceremony. I wanted there to be romance and inspiration, levity, spirituality. I really wanted you to feel like something was happening and you weren't just sitting at another wedding ceremony that you had been to. The second was, I wanted everybody to be a part of the story with my husband and I. So whether you knew us for 3 months, 3 years, 30 years, I didn't care. I wanted you to know how we met. I wanted you to know why I love my husband so much, why we chose to stand in front of all of our friends and family and exchange our vows. I wanted an intimacy. I wanted a connectedness. And the third was, I wanted a wow experience. I wanted people leaving my wedding being like, okay, first of all, I'm hiring this girl to write my wedding ceremony because mine is never going to be that good. Secondly, I have no idea what just happened, but I feel really inspired. Got to go find a husband, got to do something. I wanted something to feel very different with the wedding ceremony. I did achieve all of those. Nobody remembers what they ate at my wedding. Totally fine with that. Well, some people remember the dessert, but they are all still talking to this day about the wedding ceremony. I do have some side business lined up, and I love it. This has to do with content marketing. These 3 things are all elements that you guys need with your content strategy. When someone's reading your blog, when someone's reading your white paper, what emotion are they going to have? There has to be an emotional trigger. There has to be something that when they read that case study, they say, wow, you guys really helped that client? I want to be helped like that. Or when they read your blog, they're so interested that they're willing to give you information in a lead capture form. You have to have an emotional trigger with all of your content, or you're not going to convert and bring people down the path. The second is bring them into your brand story. So who is your brand? Why are you different than the competition? What personality do you have? We've met with a company recently who wants to really refocus on the personality. Who is their brand? What does that mean? And that all matters because it builds connectedness, which is what you need to have long-term brand proponents. And the third is you need that wow experience. I want your content strategy to be the one that all of your competitors want. You want people leaving your website or leaving a webinar and feeling like they have never experienced it before. And content marketing is not plug and play. It is not templated. It's customized for your audience and your niche. So emotion, brand story, wow experiences. That's what I want for you. Okay. So who am I? Now you know that I got married a year and a half ago, and you know that I am doing a side business where I'm going to write all your wedding ceremonies for you. But what I do here is I oversee the editorial program at Content Boost. I've been with TMC for about 4 years. I started Content Boost with an amazing team of people here from the ground up, and really our goal is to help all of you, help our clients with any of their content objectives. So we help people with everything from their blogging to their white papers, email marketing, and most important, strategy, that word that we all love, but it's so critically important. I worked with a number of high-profile companies on their marketing and branding elements, Sprint, AT&T, Panasonic, Emerson Network Power, helping them increase their rankings, their marketing awareness, their ROI, all of that. All right, so we know that getting buy-in is tough. We've gone over this. Now that you have the yes, you have to figure out what you're going to do from here and where you're going to go. So the interesting thing is that a lot of people have no faith in their content marketing strategy, but as we know from the statistics earlier today, they're doing content marketing. So the reality is there is a lot of really bad content out there, which is great for you because you can be the one to have really good content. So 66% of marketers think that while their companies have optimized their digital marketing strategies, they have a ways to go with their content marketing strategy. And this has recently been echoed by the Content Marketing Institute. They found that less than 30% of content marketers, B2B and B2C, have a documented content strategy in place. Now for me, that's like horrifying because I'm all about strategy. And by documented, they mean that there is nothing written down. These people are winging it on the fly. So it's perhaps not that surprising that less than 20% of content marketers think that they're effective at content marketing, which again kind of speaks to this bad content that we have out there. And honestly, it's because developing a best-of-breed content strategy is really difficult. It requires a lot of thinking. You can't do it overnight, and you have to make sure that you're looking at your content strategy from a variety of angles and what your competitors are doing and what the industry is doing. So where do you start? So we're going to go through these 5 tips today. Going through each of them in a greater detail. So the first is observing, and I'm going to encourage you, and I know it sounds counterintuitive. You get the yes, and then you're saying to your boss, okay, hold up a minute. I now need to go back and I need to do some observing. You can flip it. You can observe before you get the yes. I'm okay with that, but at some point you need to observe. You need to see what the industry is doing, what your competitors are doing, who your buyer personas are, and just start to ask yourself some introspective questions. The second is I want you to set your objectives. I want you guys to write down your short and your long-term goals and how you're going to get there. The third, our favorite word of today, integrated marketing strategy. So which tactics are you going to use? What are you going to do from day one? Where are you going to head? The fourth, this is where I hope to answer the gentleman's question about how to assemble your A team, what that looks like from a budget perspective. Who's going to do this? Is it going to be your own team? Is it going to be a co-sourcing model? How are you going to make sure that you're getting this done? And then 5, it's all about measurement, because let's face it, once you get the yes, you're going to get told by the boss, okay, well, how's it working? What's my website metrics? I mean, we were just talking about that with a few folks in the audience. Okay, so observe. So I don't know how many of you have seen the I will what I want Under Armour campaigns. Raise your hand if you have. They are fabulous if you have not. Okay, so I've been a dancer my whole life, so I don't know if you know the Misty Copeland one. She's the American Ballet Theater principal dancer. And this campaign started earlier this summer. And what it is it's a 60-second clip where they basically follow female athletes who are empowered and who had faced struggles along the way and who overcame it. And the whole message is that you're in charge of your own fate. So they show this dancer, Misty Copeland, and they have this voiceover of a young girl telling Misty that she would never be a ballerina. She doesn't have the body for it. She's too old to be a professional dancer. She's never going to get hired. And then they show her soaring across the stage. She, packed stadiums and just shining and glowing. And you actually have no idea this is for Under Armour until the very last second of the 60 seconds where it just says, hashtag I will what I want, and then it says Under Armour, and then you realize, oh wait, she was wearing Under Armour athletic apparel, and you really had no idea because you were so captivated by this story. You might not sell clothing, and that is completely fine. What I want you to take away from that is that I want you to observe. So as a content marketer, I saw this and I loved it. And I said, what can I do with my brand? What can we do at Content Boost here to emulate that? And one thing that I thought in my head was, it's very clear that for them, it wasn't about a hard sale. It wasn't about, here's our athletic clothing, you can use it for dance, you can use it for baseball and basketball. They chose to have a voice sell their message. And sometimes who delivers it is actually more important than what the message is. So this is what I mean by observe. Look at all the brands that you guys love. Look at what your competitors are doing. Explore people who are not in your space. It's actually sometimes where you find your best inspiration. And write every single thing down. And then I want you to ask questions about what you found. So why did I love the Misty Copeland advertisement? Why do I think that worked? Firstly, it gave me that emotional trigger that I talked about earlier. I felt invested in her story. I felt connected. A sense of brand intimacy was formed. I really like Under Armour now. I really like what they have to stand for. And you know what? I am a dancer. I might now start to look at their line. And then more importantly than just that, it was this wow experience that I talked about. And I felt that this is something I had really never seen before that kind of kept me captivated. So again, ask questions, be introspective. Observing is a really critical stage of day one when you get the yes of what to do. Again, I'm okay with you doing it before the yes if you want to have all your ammo. That's fine, but at some point you need to observe. Define your goals. So this goes back to that statistic about the fact that nobody is documenting their goals. So I had the wonderful opportunity, I got to speak with the founder of content marketing. He's the founder of the Content Marketing Institute, Joe Paluzzi. I don't know if any of you know him. He's a great luminary. If you don't follow him, I certainly suggest you guys check out his blog, follow him on social media. He's prolific in this space. And I asked him, I said, all right, well, you guys just put out this market research and you guys found that nobody is documenting their strategy. And why is this? And how do we help people overcome this challenge? And Joe's answer was so simple. He's like, they just need a pen. Like, I don't care if you're in a bar, I don't care if you're at a party, ask for a pen, get a cocktail napkin, write something down. And I love just how simple that is and how we're so afraid of like whipping out these computers and putting down our goals, printing them out, sharing them with the whole team, and making sure that everybody has a really clear vision of where you want to head. So the first question is, what do you want out of content marketing? Are you looking for brand awareness? Are you looking for customer acquisition, lead generation? You want to know all of these things. You might have 2 or 3 goals. That's okay. Prioritize them. These become your core values, your core drivers. So what your job is if it's brand awareness, lead gen, and thought leadership, what's most important to you? Rank them, because then you're going to kind of keep those in priority order as you move forward. The next, where do you want to be, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 6 years from now? Content marketing definitely requires a degree of patience, but it also requires you to put things down and then make them happen. So set goals that are both lofty and safety. A safety goal might be that you want to go from 1 blog a week to 2 blogs a week, because that's within your control. A lofty goal might be you want to see your SEO increase by 20% by 6 months, whatever it might be. Write those down. The next, what resources do you need to execute your goals? So Allison talked about this a little bit from a budget perspective, that you need to have the technologies in place. So once you're all in, what platforms are you using to support it? For instance, if you're going to launch an email marketing campaign, do you have marketing automation? Do you know what Marketo does? Do you know what HubSpot does? Do you know how Pardot can help you? If you're going to have a blogging platform, do you go with WordPress where it's free so you don't really have to pay? Do you go with HubSpot because they're your marketing automation vendor and they already have a CMS? Make sure you have all the technology in place. We actually work with quite a few clients who, day one we get started, we write probably 2 months worth of copy. We go, all right, where's it going to live? They go, we have no blogging platform. Like, all right, we got to get you a blogging platform. So make sure that you do that ahead of time. Make sure you have all those ducks in a row for yourself. But yes?
Sorry, do you recommend having a blog that is off of your website?
Oh, great question.
On the website?
Great question.
Both?
So we use WordPress, but what we do is I think it's like a little fee every month. WordPress is very affordable, by the way. I think we maybe pay $30 a month to be able to protect our domain. So when you go to the blog, it doesn't say WordPress. The free version, if you clicked it, it would say like wordpress.blog.contentboost.com, and we didn't want that. So it does redirect you, but we have it open in new tabs so that you don't lose our website page, and we also have a link on our blog that takes you right back to our homepage. So when you're looking at your platforms, make sure that the cross-traffic is possible. I know with WordPress, with the free version, we couldn't do that, and I didn't like that. I wanted when you get to our blog, you can still get back to our website. So I would say it really depends on how perceptive you think your audience is. I'd say depending on your industry, they might have no idea they're on WordPress. They might be fine with it. So know your audience, but make sure that your blog is front and center on your website. It should be in the top nav. It should be on the bottom footers, everywhere.
We have the capability to actually have a blog that's built into our website.
That's great, and we have a lot of companies that do that. I think that works wonderfully. Make sure you are working with your developers. They cannot be in a silo. They need to understand what your keyword strategy is, because they can do their own things sometimes, so you gotta make sure marketing's on them. You need it in the title tags and the meta descriptions, all of that, but that can work really well. Yeah. All right, so the third step, now that we got the yes, is we're gonna craft the integrated marketing strategy. So to do this, you need to know who your audience is. And I think this goes back to the question that the young woman over here asked, which was about, can we ever spam? Is it ever too much? And what I would say is, what's so great is you have an audience, and your audience is kind of your overarching target market. Within your audience, you have different segments, and we kind of forget about this as marketers. We forget that there are first-time suspects, people who know nothing about your brand. Then you have the people who are qualified prospects. They are engaging with your brand. They know your name at least. They know what you do. Then you have existing customers, and then you have VIP customers. And there's everybody in between. So I've identified 4 subgroups that you might never have thought of before. So to the point, are we inundating? Well, I'd argue if you're segmenting your marketing, you're not. Because if I'm a VIP customer coming to your blog, I'm not probably reading the blog about your flagship offering. I already have your flagship offering. What I'm gonna read is the blog about the new functionality you just added to the flagship product. So I think the way you get around inundating is you segment your messaging so that you have content for anyone where they are in the purchasing life cycle. The next thing, you have to choose your vehicles. So Eric, kicked everything off today with all these vehicles that you guys can use at your disposal. You have to figure out which ones work well for you and then which ones complement each other nicely. So, we'll start with a lot of clients, and we actually started our program with just blogging packages, to be quite frank. We had a couple add-ons, but it was mostly blogging. And very quickly at about, month 2, people were like, okay, I love the blogs. What else can I do because I want to maximize the reach? And we said, okay, well, you really should be doing something on social. You really should be using the blogs for an e-newsletter blast. And then all of a sudden, they're thinking integrated. So you can start where you need to, but realize that you're only going to probably get so far with one tactic, because a lot of these tactics were meant to be married together. And what I've personally loved is that we've seen a really big evolution in our client base where clients come to us and say, here's my budget. I want blogging, social media, white papers, case studies. Here's my budget. What can you do for me? That's what I love, because people get it. They understand it's not just going to be one platform. It's integrated, and you customize it, you bundle it all together, and then you get the maximum results. The next is pinpoint your starting place. Okay, because now you're probably thinking, oh gosh, you just told me I have to do blogging, social media, and email marketing, and I have no bandwidth. What I'd say is you can start with one. That's okay. Because what I wouldn't want you to do is start with all 3 and then you abandon it. The worst thing that you can do with content marketing is stop doing something altogether. And that's when content marketing fails, is when you've had consistency and then you just stop. So I can't even tell you how many people I've met with over the years who said, oh yeah, we have Twitter, we have Facebook, and I pull up their Twitter. They haven't tweeted in 5 months. Or they have a blog, and the blog hasn't been updated in a month. And that's long for blogging, believe me. So don't do it until you're ready. I would rather you be ready and have all your strategy in place and then tackle it, because it's going to be worse. You have one chance to make market impact, one chance to really launch something, so you don't want to do it the wrong way. You want to make sure you're really thinking things through. And then we've talked about this a lot, the concept of editorial calendars, distribution cycles. This is really critically important. You want to make sure, and I don't want to repeat what we've already talked about, but you want to make sure you have visibility into what's coming. And I would argue something we haven't talked about today is that this really plays into a distribution strategy as well. So if you work with a PR agency, for instance, we work with a lot of PR companies with our clients, and we are complementary partners for them. We communicate with the PR companies. We want them to understand, here's what we're doing from a blogging front, here's when you need to blast it out from a PR perspective. Let's say you guys want to get published on a third-party industry site where your consumers go to absorb news. Either your team, a co-sourcing partner, whoever it is, with your team, make sure you guys know when that deadline is for submission. Make sure you know what the requirements are and think ahead. Because what you can't do, we have a lot of relationships with other companies like CMI, B2C, where we're published on their websites. We don't do that overnight. We don't just come in on Tuesday morning and say, all right, I got to get a blog for CMI. I got to work on that for probably a month. I really do. So think about that syndication, distribution, editorial calendars are all really important. Your 4th step, pick your team. You need rock stars, okay? We know there is such bad content out there, and I think the worst mistake that people make is they don't realize that content marketing, while there are skill sets that probably your marketers already possess for content marketing, it is a different content beast. So if you have someone on your team who's been doing PRs for years, it doesn't necessarily mean that they can go straight for your CEO who wants to all of a sudden have a blog. So keep that in mind, that not all skill sets for traditional marketers are transferable for content marketing. So, we kind of talked about budgets, and I want to try to get to it here. And if I still don't answer your question, please find me afterwards, and I will answer it. I promise you. But what I would argue is, it's kind of what I talked about, which is you can go in-house. And what we have to do when you go in-house is you have to inevitably bring in members of your team, and we all have those on our team who we give everything to. And you'll say to them something like, okay, I now need you to blog, and I would like you to blog, 3 times a week for me, and oh, can you also do email marketing, and can you still do some Twitter? And they're that person who will say yes, and they will smile at you and say, yes, I'm in it, I'm committed, because they're that person. We all have them, we love them, they're the ones who get ahead in their careers, but they're also still human, and there's some sort of task that is going to fall by the wayside, which is what I said. So that's where you have to quantify the in-house cost of bringing someone in-house. So you either, if you're doing it in-house, have to hire someone brand new, because it is a full-time job, or you're going to be saddling on probably your best people who then are going to have to get rid of other tasks to make room for it. And that's where you'll quantify it on your own. You'll say, if I'm paying this person X amount in salary and I'm now giving him a part-time job essentially, what money am I losing because he can't do this, but this avenue makes me X amount of money. And each company is going to have a different budget. That's how you're going to come up with it. When that doesn't work, that's when you might start to think of co-sourcing. And co-sourcing has become a really popular term because when you think outsourcing, you think everything's going out of house, and that's really scary. It'd be scary for me. Co-sourcing is wonderful. Co-sourcing is finding a partner that you trust who's going to be in it with you and committed at a fraction of the price. So we have infographics online, and I'm happy to share them with you guys that look at the cost of hiring someone full-time with the benefits, the salary, the technology, the training, the investment, the recruiter. You can run up to over $100,000 to bring somebody in-house by the time it's all said and done for someone who maybe had a salary at $50,000, just because you have to bring them up to speed. Versus you can maybe have a $10,000 budget for content marketing with an outsourcing vendor that can last you an entire year. And you haven't lost your best people from burnout and a lack of bandwidth. So that's where you'll figure out your budget and how much it would cost you. You'd figure out what's the cost of co-sourcing, what's the cost of taking it in-house, what can I afford to lose. But you have to have the best people for the job. And sometimes our best people internally will tell us they can handle things and we really want to believe them, but you also don't want to lose your best people, so keep that in mind that it is a full-time job. So finally, how are you going to measure success? And this is really important. There's a lot of types of ways that you can measure success. I think the first thing is you have to figure out how often are you measuring your success. So we're going to be breaking for sessions after this, and Brooke in the back, if Brooke can wave. Brooke is also another member of our Content Boost team. I totally just put her on the spot, but Brooke helps oversee our blogging and our featured article platform. And Brooke does this wonderful thing every Friday where she sends us a content audit. And she tells us what the best blogs of the week, how many hits did they get, what topics have we missed, what topics need to be covered, how's our SEO doing? That's what she does every Friday before she leaves, and she never misses it, and we all read it, and everyone better be reading it. And we plan, and we look at this, and we see what did well, and sometimes it's surprising, like a story that you would have never thought was going to get all these hits, got huge traffic. That's a little something, a little tip that you can take back to your organization today and start doing a weekly content audit. And then at a grander scale, monthly reporting. So we talked about Google Webmaster Tools and Google Analytics. That's what we do for our clients. So every month, if they choose to kind of let us have access to it, we can do monthly reporting. And so I'd say that you need to figure out how often you want to be measuring your success, but make sure you have a timetable. Some things can be done weekly, some things can be done monthly, and some things, remember, there's patience involved. Some things you have to wait a little bit longer. SEO, for instance, you're going to have to wait. Yes. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Yeah. Does everyone know what a bounce rate is in here? Yeah, so a bounce rate, I'm happy you brought this up. A bounce rate basically means they left you, and you want to know how quickly they left you. So did they bounce after 7 seconds? Did they bounce after 10 minutes? And you have to judge what is successful for your company. Every company is going to be a little different depending on your market. If your market is a voracious reader, they probably would spend more time on a blogging platform than, say, a market who likes quick, short blogs and a bounce rate of maybe 5 minutes. Honestly, I could probably read something in 5 minutes. So that would be okay for you. Means they left, they're disinterested. Bounce is right. So at least how we, and you can feel free to add in, at least how we define bounce is based on how long did they stay on the page before they left. Yeah, we can definitely talk about it afterwards as well and go into a little bit further. No, it's all relevant. It's all relevant. But so to your point about bounce rates and click-throughs, that was kind of the next part, which is there's a lot that you can measure. And I think you bring up a great point because we don't think, sometimes you forget that. You forget that's a really important metric. You forget the click-through rate. So when you're filling your blog with hyperlinks, is anyone even clicking on your hyperlinks? Yes? Click-through rate is if you have hyperlinks within your blog, how many people are actually clicking through? So they're actually clicking to then bring up the new page that you would link to. Yeah, because think about it. If you're going to put in your blog these great value-added resources, so if you're going to be describing why this coat is a must-have for the winter, and then you want to hyperlink must-have for the winter, and then a picture of the coat pops up, how many people are actually clicking on that link to see what the coat looks like? That's a really good sign they're engaging with the brand and they're taking it a step further. So we have a couple of minutes left. So these are questions I get asked a lot, but I also want to turn it over to you guys. So I'd first love to hear, we've already started some great discussion, any additional questions that you guys have. I think I saw a hand back there.
Well, I was just going to say
So it also, what you're mentioning is a great tactic. We do that a lot because it's really important to also link out to credible sources for your own ranking, and that helps you with your credibility. So to the gentleman's point, it's about how you determine that value. So to me, if I know my end goal is I want that bounce, I want people going there, then that will be a success if I see that click-through link, that they clicked it, they've bounced. That's a sign of positivity towards me. It's a different campaign. It's a different strategy that you're employing. It's a great one. And it's one that you hope people then do back to you because the backlinking is critically important as well. And you kind of curry good favor by doing something like that because when people know that you feel confident enough to outlink to them, they start to take notice and then they want to return the favor. Yeah, so where PR companies tend to bring a lot to the table is that they know who the influencers are in your market, and they can go after them and make sure that you're getting noticed in, any form of media, connecting you with influencers who will evangelize on behalf of your brand. So we work with a lot of clients who have a PR agency and who have us because they need both, because the PR agencies a lot of times are not going to do the content marketing part for you, or they don't have the experience and the subject matter expertise to do so. So what we would do, for instance, is we would probably work with the PR company on knowing who the influencers are, so we have a really good understanding of who we're going after from a market perspective, what types of articles do they tend to share, what do they want to publish, so that we can build our content calendars around what the market research is telling us. In addition to that, we do our own market research. So we'll come to the table with, Content Boost is part of TMC, as Rich mentioned, which has been an online media company for 40 years doing PRs and doing magazines and doing all sorts of online media. So we have our own PR experience as well. So we bring that to the table. A lot of clients use us for PR. They don't use their PR agencies anymore. So we can either integrate with your PR partner, or we can kind of use all of the industry connections that we have as well, find your influencers. You bring up a great point. There's this misconception a lot with social media, especially, that popularity is what's important. So do you have 10,000 followers? Do you have 20,000? Influence is what's important. You might have 1,000 followers and every single one of those people retweet you, and then all of a sudden you have power over the social stratosphere and people are engaging with your brand. So it's not always a numbers game. It's finding, as you said, those brand ambassadors, the people who are engaged with your brand and want to spread the word for you, and connecting with them. So one question we get asked a lot, and then we'll break for lunch, that I just wanted to go over was, how do you know when it's time to course correct? Because I think that's, again, there's this interesting thing with content marketing where there is a patience element to it, but then there's a strategy component, and you have to have both. So we're having a webinar December 16th. Rich and I are presenting. It's we hope that you guys will join us. It's all about jumpstarting your new year with the right content strategy. And one thing that we're going to be talking about is when you know it's time to course correct. And what does that look like? And I'd argue that you have to figure out if your problem is a patience problem or if it's a strategy problem. So a patience problem, for instance, would be you changed your keyword strategy recently. You're integrating it with all your blogging elements, your title tags, your meta descriptions, your white paper campaigns. And a month into it, your boss is like, all right, well, where are we ranking? That's a patience problem. You're probably not going to see any sort of SEO changes in 1 month. Google is literally changing the algorithm every single day. So that's something that you have to just be patient. You have to explain to your boss that nothing is wrong. We're doing everything right. We just have to give SEO the time that it deserves. SEO takes a couple of months, and you have to build up page indexes and author page profiles and all of that. A strategy problem would be something like your boss comes to you and says, well, why is our blog getting no hits? First question I'd say to you is, where does your blog live? And again, I've told you this, but I'm really shocked as to how many companies I cannot find their blog. And we're writing for them. And it drives me crazy because I'll get on the phone and I'll say, guys, we're writing your blog copy. I can't even find it. They're like, oh yeah, it's down the drop down, and then you got to go here, and then the subpage. And I'm like, all right, I need it in the nav. I want it in the top nav. That's a strategy problem. If somebody's if you guys are looking at your blogging platform and you're also wondering, why the bounce rate might be high, well, look at your archives of all your blog topics. Is every single entry about Content Boost, for instance? Because you know what? I'm not reading that. I'm probably bouncing every single time because you're hard selling me right now. So that's a strategy problem. So when you're looking at course correcting, when you're looking at, especially 2015, where all kind of our eyes are on what the future is going to look like, what we have to change, understand the difference between the two, understand how to explain that to your boss. They are going to have to be patient with you, but you have to be strategic for them. And you have to make sure that if they're going to be patient, you're taking that patience and that time to make sure that you're stepping it up a notch. So guys, your questions have been fabulous. We do not want to stop the conversation. So what we're going to do is we want to invite all of you for lunch. Lunch is right in the other room. And then what we're going to do from 12 to 1, let's all just mingle and talk. And we're all here. We're happy to talk about any questions you guys have. And then from 1 to 3, we have a couple exciting things going on. The first is we're going to actually kind of divide the room almost by tables for something that you're interested in. So if you want to know everything there's to know about blogging, you can meet with Brooke, and Brooke is going to answer every question that you have. These will be small group discussions. We invite as many of you to come as you want. You don't have to stay at one table. You can bounce around, bounce rate. You can do a social media table. Alice, perfect. I love it. Yes. We'll have outliers. It'll be great. We're going to have a social media table. Allison's going to be at our social media table. She can tell you all the latest going on in the social stratosphere. We're going to have a lead generation table. That's good. Where Rebecca's going to handle. Rebecca can answer all the questions you guys have about how do you gate assets, how do you get qualified leads, how do you move them down the funnel. That's going to be going on for 2 hours. You can stay with your person as long as you want. You can bounce. We talked about it. That's fine. This is really your chance to ask any questions you have, and we're also going to be sharing the latest market research with you. So we'll kind of divide the room as we head to the end of lunch. And then in addition, we have all of our bonus opportunities. So if you haven't signed up for a video yet, we want to make sure that you sign up for video. We got Matt in the back. He's ready to go. The camera's on me, and I would like it to be on one of you. So please go sign up with him. We have one-on-one meetings with the Content Boost team. So if you want to grab me, I will meet with you for 30 minutes. I will tell you everything you need to do today with your brand. We will give you an assessment to take back to your boss today if that's what you want. And the second is all of our representatives are here if you guys have any questions about what we offer. We would be happy to answer those for you. So feed yourselves. We have an exciting afternoon, and we hope you guys all stay with us. Let us know if you have any questions, okay? Thanks, guys.